Evening, Seb here. We're doing another fundamentals day today. I think we're like on day 14 now, which is awesome. Love to see that. And what we're going to store today, I think we're going to go with some perspective. I was deciding on what to do today overall. I wasn't very sure, but I think perspective is the one that we haven't touched yet. And it's going to help us a lot further on when we're creating some poses or anything like that. It's always important that we put them in perspective, because then our drawings will look great. It'll add a lot more dimension to them. If you want to look at some masters of perspective, look no other place than Jung Gi. He was really good at what he did. One of my favorite artists ever. Very sad news when he passed away, but if you want to look anywhere, look there for perspective, because he was truly incredible at building a piece in perspective. And we're going to try and get as good as that, basically. But we're going to start off simple, like we always do. We're going to start with 1 point perspective today, and then another day we might do some 2 point perspective, all the way up to, I think there's like 9 point perspective. It goes a bit crazy at some point. But yeah, let's grab all the references. Again, they'll be in the description below, just as always. I don't know why I'm pointing behind me. Grab your references, grab your pencils, grab your paper, everything. Let's get straight to it. Right, we are ready to go. Let's have a look at what we're using today. I've got this very nice mechanical pencil here from Tombow Monograph. I bought this a while ago. It's got a bit of a nifty feature to it. This is actually one of the features that I use that is kind of helpful, actually, when it comes to like all these gimmicks that often these different pencils come in with. So let's say you're drawing and you start running out of your lead here. All you have to do is sort of flick it back and forth, and then more of it comes out. So it's actually pretty handy. I mean, I don't know what takes you more out of the loop of drawing, whether you have to go and do this or whether you do that, but you know, it's up to preference. It's just a bit of fun, I guess. And if you don't want that to happen, you click up and it locks in. Got a little bit of an eraser here as well. It's a pretty good deal, to be honest. I'll just put on some music. I'm going to turn it down a little bit just so it doesn't get into here or whatever. Right, perspective. We've got some 1 point perspective today. If you want, you can absolutely use a ruler for this, but I'm gonna go freehand. I think the whole thing with 1 point perspective is that everything converges here on this 1 point, which is completely off center from the actual page itself, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be center, but I'm just gonna rearrange it. Now, actually it might be useful to use a ruler at some point. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a horizon line, which means this is like where everything meets, right? This is that 1 point where everything kind of like goes inwards. You'll see a horizon line with pretty much every perspective that you do. But now anything that we're gonna build is gonna come out of here. So imagine if this is like a little ball that's the sun and it's shooting out rays of light, and we're gonna follow those rays to build what we're building. Now, if we have a look at the reference that I'm using, you'll see it up either somewhere here or here. We can see that there's a path that goes directly to this point, and well, I mean, we can roughly put this path in. I'll just do this just so we have like a reference point. Obviously the path isn't exactly like this. If we look at the image, it is a little bit different, but you know, we'll use this for now. This is just a reference. And we're gonna start building from there. So with 1 point perspective, it's actually really easy, because most of the time you're just drawing upwards where the structure is. So what I'm gonna do is put in these like little points of reference for myself here. And we're gonna build these structures using these lines over here. I'm gonna make this a little bit wider, just so we don't lose too much space. There we go. So what we're starting to do here is we're just building these structures. This may look very complicated at first, but you'll know what I mean when you start going along. Basically, any tall is that vertical line that you see in a drawing, put it down and then use that as a reference point. And then what we're going to do afterwards is we're going to start connecting these lines, but obviously I did that wrong there. What you're going to do is you're going to build outwards from this point here. So what happens is all of these lines, so all of the top lines are going towards the point which you created, which is over here. I'm going to call it P for point. And that's, I know that sounds like, I hope that sounds simple enough, but that's pretty much all that this is, because in 1 point's perspective, you don't have any other place to sort of converge to for your effect. I think it is probably the simplest form out there. This is where you can start building like inside structures very easily, because all you have to do is put lines like this, and then meet them up. It starts to get much more complicated when you start getting multiple perspectives in. So that's where you have to start building from 2 points. So if you imagine this point here, that would be over here. So you have to use those to build your structures. But since we're doing it the rather easy way, which is the 1 point perspective, we're just going to go out here and we're going to start building the scene that we see. And I hope you guys are just going to follow along and sort of try and create what I'm creating here, and pay attention to where lines meet, because that's what we want, right? We want to know where these lines are meeting, want to know where we're building these structures. An eraser is going to be very handy in this situation, because there's going to be a lot of lines which you're going to want to get rid of eventually. So from the reference, we're building out this little market area here. I don't actually think I'm going to get too accurate with the reference, because I'm not going to lie, perspective is something I want to work on more. But that's what we're here for. We're going to learn. So I'm going to use the reference as more of a guideline to build my own sort of street here. I think that's going to be the best thing to do. So if this doesn't look exactly like the reference, that's going to be exactly why. I'm going to be building my own world here using these references. But you are more than happy to follow along. I'd be more than happy if you do follow along. You can create exactly what I'm creating here, or you can choose to just focus in on the image itself to build this sort of world that we're creating here. What I'm going to do is create this to be a sort of storefront. Have some sort of logo here. I do realize I'm saying sort very many times. My apologies for that. Alright, let's get rid of these lines a little bit. Let's clean it out. And let's build up a little bit more of this. There's like a slanted roof here, which we're gonna use that for our building too. We're gonna make sure that we look at the reference to see what it looks like, but what we're gonna do is go ahead and implement it into our own vision. If this becomes a little bit difficult to keep track of, then make sure you just go back on the video a little bit and take your time with it, because this is perspective can be a little bit of a hard one to get full grasp of, because like we're used to seeing it, but this is really what creates three-dimensional structure in your drawing. So it's not an easy thing to learn, really. And the fun fact is that this is probably one of the easiest perspectives to draw, so it does get a lot harder from here onwards. I'm still going to try and pay attention to some details to make sure that we're building something cool here. What you can do is obviously use the ruler to follow out these different points. I'm not going to do that because I like freehanding my work. It just gives that little bit more error. Let's separate these to make them look like windows a little bit. It's exactly what we want. Then we're going to add an actual window, making sure we use this line to build these objects out. This is going to help us ensure that we are on perspective, that we're not making any major mistakes, making it look weird. And then, like I said, delete some of those lines that we have because they are going to get in the way for you, and it's going to just make it a little bit harder to understand what's going on in the scene. I've recently been looking at some fountain pens, just out of topic here, since what we're going to be doing is just slowly building this world. I can use this time to talk about something. Been looking at some fountain pens recently. Those look very nice. I do have one that I might use for a video to draw out some of these lines. Actually, I might go ahead and use it later on for this one, or not, or we'll use it in the next one. But I do recommend for some of you guys to use fountain pens instead of those fine liners, because they do give you a lot of control over your line weight, and they are generally very fun to use, especially for drawing. I think they're very great for sketching out ideas, and even for line work. You just have to make sure that you get some waterproof ink, because if you do color over that, that's gonna suck. It will bleed terribly. Now I might be spending a little bit too much time on this little section, so I say we start moving on a little bit. I'll add a little bit more detail. There's some sort of pipe going on in the picture here, so we'll add that. Do a little trash can here just for fun, because we can, because we're artists and we can create whatever world we want, whatever world we desire, we can do that. I'm gonna add this weird contraption here as well. Not exactly sure what it is, but it is on the image, so we'll create something that looks similar. Maybe it'll be a bin or something. I don't know, actually I might have placed it in the wrong area here. Nothing a good old rubber can't fix. Alright, let's remove that. Might be getting a little bit messy, but that's alright. Let's do a little doormat situation here. Obviously, again, keeping with the perspective, making sure that we're sort of putting it in the right area. I think sort of has become a word of my vocabulary today. Just do something here to highlight it a little bit. This feels a lot more like some of the design work I used to do rather than full-on drawing. I think it's reason why it's because it's a little bit more technical than just, you know, drawing from your head. But it is very important to understand this, because later on we can use this and we can create shapes to really get some cool looking artwork out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this window a little bit further just so it looks a little bit better in this situation. Alright, awesome. That's our little shop front. That's one part done. What I'm going to do now is create almost like a second area here. Alright, let's create these lines going outwards, which will end here, and we'll build it to be a ramp, which we will use the perspective line, again converging roughly to this point. I do want to keep emphasizing that because it's important that you do not forget to go back to this point here. I'm going to create some fencing around here. See, it's a very simple activity because what you're doing is you're just filling in. You're creating lines and then filling them in, and that's it. That's your perspective. That's your one single point perspective. It's lovely because you can create some really good looking art in a very short amount of time. Well, maybe not a short amount of time because this does take a little while, but you can create some really good looking artwork. It does really make some of your stuff look professional, so keep that in mind next time you're wondering why your art isn't really popping off the page. Maybe adding some perspective to it will give it that extra flair that you want, or that you're really, really looking for in this situation. Let's get a little bit more lead out here. Do a couple of these points here. Add a tiny bit of detail to this. And then I see there's some weird stuff going on with the wall here, so we're gonna cut it off. And then some, I don't know what's going on here, but we'll figure that out. So we had almost like a divider wall here. I'm gonna add this little light that's been floating here on the image. Looks like a massive Christmas bulb thing that you kept on your Christmas trees. Alright, let's see. I'm gonna use a ruler here, because why not? You can always use a ruler with your work, just to sort of put you back into your guides of where you want to go. Absolutely nothing wrong with using the tools we have, right? This is like the old school holding shift on Photoshop. That's all it is. Alright. What we got going on here? Let's make this a little bit more interesting. I'm actually going to end up using the ruler a couple times. Let's fill this in over here. Oops. And over here, add a little line. Now I'm going to use this as a guideline to make an entrance for something. Nope, apologies for that. We'll do an arched door because why not? It's not in the reference, but we're being creative today, so we'll do a little bit of an arched door. And then we'll add whatever to here. But first, I'm going to fill out the top a little bit. Let's make it taller, more interesting, because we can use it to fill out the space. That's fun. And let's make this a little bit different by going inwards, which may be a little bit difficult to convey here, but let's try it. We'll do a little cut here so it's easier to understand what we're doing. And then if we follow that reference, that's where the cut goes. Hopefully you guys can understand what I'm building here, but this is a cut in to this wall that we created here. So I'm gonna fill this out, make it a little bit easier to understand for not only for the audience but also for myself. You know, when you're drawing, it's also important that you put guides for yourself everywhere. And if you end up leaving them, then it looks like your style and it looks really nice and developed. And then we'll have the end of it here. But I say we stop adding in the detail here because this is not somewhere we want to focus. This isn't somewhere we want our people to, you know, bring their eyes. So since we're upwards here, the perspective of whatever this lamp that I'm building here will be one like this. So this will be the bottom, this will be the top. And that's more or less what it will look like. But I think this side of our street is going fairly well. How are we doing for time? 18 minutes in, we still have some lovely time to go. So let's keep building. Now for this, add a little bit more. we'll do this more extruded here building. Again, we do not have to add much detail because maybe this isn't where we want to focus. I'm just gonna get a little bit more comfortable. Oh, and I'm gonna kick everything over as usual. But yeah, let's get a little bit more comfortable so we build this world to the best of our abilities. Let's say that what we just created here has a little cubby here, and this isn't a building right next to the other building. There's something here going on. We'll do a little bit of a lip on it so it looks a bit different. And using perspective, once again, we're going to build this little thing here. But as I mentioned, let's keep the details to a minimum. We'll do a little bit of something here, just so the viewer knows this is not where we want you to be looking right now. Do a little thing, antenna, whatever it's called. We'll do a couple here, just to add a little bit. Oh, lovely. That's that gone. Fill this in a little bit, and look at that, we're building something really cool here. I do actually like to get lost in perspective sometimes. I think that's the reason why I went off the reference a little bit. I just know whenever I practiced perspective on my own, it would be a time for me to just sort of explore, see what I can build just by using some basic shapes, which is what we always want to be doing in art, right? We want to learn how to build these different worlds by just using shapes. Like, it doesn't have to be complex. A lot of this is just big squares and big rectangles just put together, connected by one or two lines, and then all of a sudden you've got a little town on the side of your page. Just real simple stuff. Obviously it's easy to say real simple stuff. It's nowhere near as simple as it looks. It never is. This is countless hours of practice that you see. Like, there's and this isn't even, you know, up there in the levels that people get to whenever they're creating this sort of art. So there's no talent here, it's just practice. It's constant wanting to be better at the things that we do. So remember that. If someone tells you you're talented, you tell them, no, I practiced this. I earned the right to say I practiced this. This is not something that was just given to me. This is something I worked real damn hard for. So never forget that. Every time someone tells you you're very talented, I say correct them. Let them know that you spent, I don't even know how many hours, sitting in your room with a pencil and a piece of paper and a laptop with Seb's Art Fundamental Days on. And you spent that time and you got real good at art doing it. And you'd be proud of that. Because you deserve to be proud of that. And that's a lot of work. I don't always take the time to be proud of where I've gotten with my ability to draw. It's been a long process to even think about where I've gone, and every time I think I suck at something, I have to remind myself that, hey, you know what, you've gotten really good at this though. You may suck at perspective right now, but damn, you got pretty good at drawing hands over the couple last weeks. So yeah, always look for something to be proud of, rather than always looking for something to hate on and be disappointed in. Because I say there is a lot of stuff that we can be proud of right now. But we just choose to ignore it. We choose to look at the stuff that sucks. Which in itself is a good thing, right? I guess it's always good to look at things that suck in your life to make sure that you do something about them. But But right now, we want to celebrate a little bit. I'm gonna make this a tiny bit more 3D by adding like a ledge to it, because after all, this is a door. Doors aren't perfectly flat. Add a little handle of some sorts. Again, don't need too much detail here. I guess this door is going to be wooden, like the olden doors that you'd get in Skyrim or something when you're playing and you see these massive doors and you're like, oh yes, I must press X to enter. I can't remember what the button was to enter. Now, do I want to build a fence here? The reference clearly says that there's a fence here, but I think we're not going to add a fence here. I like the way that this is exposed. So I hope you're getting the gist of this sort of stuff in here. I don't want to actually go on explaining too much more, because this is really all there is to it. After all, this is a single point perspective. So there's a lot of the basics to learn here, and a lot of the basics to master here. Oh, I'm gonna have to move my paper a little bit so I can try and make a straight line. There you go. Yeah, never be afraid to move your page around as an artist, because that really helps you. There's just angles that we're much better at creating with our hand, and if you're gonna like have to go in here and create like a circle, it's not gonna work out. So just move your paper. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like rotating your canvas. I think there's an issue with us artists that we tend to put blocks on these things and tell. I don't know if this is like that with everyone, but I used to tell myself that, hey, I'm not going to use this because I don't want to get accustomed to it. So then I can only use this, but not something else. I used to put like these weird expectations on things, whereas no, there's nothing wrong with moving your paper around. I mean, I used to think that was wrong. You shouldn't do that, because I'm going to get used to it, and then there's going to be times where I can't turn my piece of paper for some reason. It sounds funny now, but no, I'm being serious. That was a genuine thought process that I was going through at some point. Yeah, you start to think of these weird things and you're like, hey, you know what, I don't want to do this because I'm going to get used to it, and then I'm not going to be able to do it at some point. I'm going to regret wanting to do this all the time. Don't do that. That's a really stupid way of thinking. And yeah, I don't know why. That's something that I had ingrained, or still do, in my brain. But yeah, don't do that as an artist. Use everything you've got to create the best art you can. Now, as you can see, what we're doing here was we're just focusing on this side. I think what we're going to do for today is just finish this side and then call it a day. We might continue with the next side in the next video, but I do like the place we're at here. And we are getting to the end of our time, because it's 26 minutes already. Look at that. Time does go quickly. So yeah, I'll figure out what to do with the other half. But for now, I think we've got a very nice side of the building here. And what we did to create this is we used single point perspective. We got right from here. And that's how we got to it. That's it. That is it. Look at that. I'm actually quite happy with that. I think that came out very nicely. This is one of the last pages in the sketchbook. I think there's still a lot of empty pages in here. Like I said, I might do a little textbook, yes, sketchbook video at some point. But we've created something really cool here, and I hope that you did as well at home. I hope that you got involved a little bit and tried to create your own little side city. If not, I'm going to set you some homework today. I want you to create some of this, and for next video what we're going to do is we're going to fill in the other side. So if you can, go and create one side, so the right side of the place that we're building, and have that ready, because we're going to do the same for the other side in the next video, but we're going to try and go a little bit more complicated. So we're going to create something a little bit more, how do I put it, just more advanced. There's going to be a lot more lines going on. So yeah, I'm going to try something different today with this video. We're not going to do the typical outro where you see me. I'm just going to say my goodbyes here. And yeah, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like. If you want to see more of these, leave a sub. It'll really help out the channel. It always does. And yeah, I hope you had a fun lesson today. I'll see you in the next one. And stay cozy and create some good art. And I'll see you one half of this painting, or one half of this drawing, so we can get on with the other half.